today's video, I wanted to go over the current state of mining in 322. I wanted to really take things slow, make sure me and the El Guapos Gate cult spend as much time as possible finding out the most important changes and relevant information to give you before making this video. I don't want to just go over the most obvious changes. I want to break things down a little deeper than that. I want to go over rock sizes, clusters, rarity, planetary mining, asteroid mining, scanning, and quality of life changes. I want to go over my current build and where to mine in the mole and in the prospector. Let's get into it. The planetary quantanium and tier 1 and 2 mineral quantity hasn't really changed. The same locations that had some great chances of finding bexilite, terranite, gold, and quant all have the same RNG chances. The real change here is they have changed the chances of what size rocks spawn and where. That is the change you will feel the most. To put it simply, let's just say in the last patch, the rock sizes small, medium, and large all had a relatively similar chance in spawning. We were constantly finding 30 to 50k rocks with low density tier 3 materials as the common element in the last patch. Rocks with quartz, aluminum, titanium, and corundum were all relatively easy to find in the 30k range. In the new patch, it feels like they have multiplied the chance of the small rocks by 10 and reduced the chances of finding large or mid-sized rocks by a scale of 10 as well at most locations. Because of this, they have made mining significantly easier since the chance of smaller rocks spawning is significantly higher. This has increased the rarity of finding 20 to 40k plus low density rock sizes by a magnitude of 10 in most locations. These rocks are even more rare than just finding quant. The impact of this is the feeling that they lowered the skill ceiling of the actual mining process. This is more noticeable with mole mining, but prospector mining is much easier as well. Considering the way instability and difficulty currently works while mining, the larger the rock, the more instability it can have, and the more power is required to break that rock. Now that these large rocks are almost non-existent in a lot of locations and generally rare in a choice few locations, you will now be actively finding and mining 5 to 15k rocks much more often. This can be seen as a positive for some, but a negative for a lot of us. They have said they rebalance mining in favor of the prospector more with this last update, but I will have to disagree. Seems like they balanced it more for a rented prospector with a stock Arbor 1 laser instead. Maybe they should have just slapped an impact on the rental, who knows. I am noticing bigger RS signature clusters now compared to before. I believe this is due to more small rocks and extractables being in the mix. So keep that in mind when you see a 15k plus RS signature cluster. It will probably be very prospector friendly. I have noticed the RS signatures around 7 to 9k containing 3 or so rocks tend to have a pretty good chance of spawning a decent mid-size rock. I actually get pretty excited now when I find them. With that being said, I still believe it is worth it to play the RNG game and go for the biggest clusters possible when looking at the RS signatures. But just keep in mind with the big signatures, you'll most likely find a bunch of extractables. There are still a couple of locations that spawn bigger mass low density rocks though. Crusader area by far has the most profitable mining right now, for solo mole or otherwise. R Corp rock sizes have taken a massive hit, and Microtech is no better. Even large tungsten rocks, which, let's be honest, tungsten and large seem synonymous. Even those are hard to find now. There were many times I would scan 20 plus clusters before finding even one 20k rock. I think on Microtech and R Corp, the rock sizes were severely overtuned. Now with Hurston and its moons have a lot of iron and a little copper. I did see many 30k rocks, but again, these were always gold, quantanium, or laranite sitting on a dense common material. a rock that is the equivalent to what you would earn with a 10K rock on our Corporate Crusader. In my time hunting in the Hurston area, I didn't even find one 20K quartz and Vex or quartz and Terranite rock. So make of that what you will. On to the topic of asteroid mining. There seems to be this belief that they move the large rocks and what are deemed as mole rocks to the Halo or the refinery mining spots. This is simply bullshit. The Aaron Halo still lacks in clusters and is mostly single rocks as always. Further testing needs to be done, but it is still a mixed bag of elements from tungsten to aluminum. I did notice we are seeing more rocks with low density tier 3 materials than before in band 5, 3, and 1 compared to previously. But of course, these rocks are all sub 10K. Most of the time I was finding 3K rocks and 5K low density rocks. So as expected, the Aaron Halo is still a terrible place for a solo miner or a crude mole chasing a decent profit per hour. This change they made, I feel, has hurt the Halo more. It's made it even worse than it was before. It will always be your safest mining option, so I guess it has that going for it. If you prefer mining in space, it will be better to mine Lagrange stations or the Yellow Belt. Only as long as you are targeting the Lagrange points that consist of lower density common materials. The crew refineries in Mike L3 have gotten me some decent finds relatively quick in my mission. But good ones to check out would be Crews L1 and 2s, Mike L4 and 5, Mike L1, Mike L2, all these spots at 50% or more low density rocks. On to the topic of scanning. In 322, you will need to get extremely close to the asteroids if you are space mining for them to actually scan with the mining mode. I actually like to shoot the rocks beforehand until I see the laser bounce off the surface, then kick on my mining mode and get point blank to the rock. And I'm not kidding when I say point blank. Also, when scanning in general, after coming from the mining mode on a turret or from the pilot seat, I have noticed you will have to turn your scanning mode off and back on again to see the RS signatures of the bubbles. While talking about that, there will be many times you do not see the boxes pop up showing you a cluster. Try to keep an eye out for the little bubbles, which can still be present, and hover your reticle over the center like you normally would to check the RS. Before going into rock composition and the big quality of life change, I would like to give a heads up about the surge module real quick. Sometimes 2+ surge modules are not stacking and working together like before on a single laser. A potential fix could be restocking at the station and switching servers. 3 surge modules are still not working together at the moment, just as it has been broken the last few patches. Another thing I'd like to point out, sometimes adding instability to a rock will make a rock bug out and not gain charge. One thing you can do is replace a surge module with a Riger C3, and to lower the instability but also gain power, use a Stampede module as well. So if 2 surges ain't working, try Surge Stampede. As for rock composition, as we know, a rock can have at most 50% of a single tier 1 element in a rock, and that includes Quantanium. For tier 2 materials, the maximum a rock can have is 60%. And finally, for the common materials, a rock can have up to 70%, but a number that high is rare. As for the inert, there is a lot more inert in the rocks than before. After checking over thousands of rocks throughout the system so far, I recorded an average inert value of around 15%, with some rocks being as low as 0.06% inert. Some had as high as 44.9% on initial break, so if I had to take a guess, the max amount of inert a rock can have will probably be around 50%. But as you can see from my blurry screenshots, I am ending my runs with between 2 to 12 SCU of inert, depending on circumstances and which laser I have extracted with. It seems I typically get between 2 to 8 SCU of inert while extracting with the Arbor 2 with 1 filter L module. This makes using the filter modules actually viable again to reduce some of that inert you are bound to get. These modules will for sure save you a few more SCU of cargo space. Also keep in mind, a lot of lasers have an inherent modifier of up to -40% to inert materials already. The mass to SCU of elements is hit or miss right now and still seems to be buggy. You will not consistently get the same mass to 1 SCU ratio of all the different elements. When mining heavy minerals combined with the lighter materials, you will notice wide variations. So after testing hundreds of rocks and trying to calculate all the different tier 1 and 2 materials and all the common materials mass to SCU ratios, I have come to a conclusion. The best and most simple advice I can offer to you to make the most profits while mining is to target the lowest density common material rocks such as aluminum, quartz, titanium, and corundum, just as I have recommended you to do before. Now on to the quality of life change. The biggest quality of life change I've noticed for us miners was drop last patch with no mention from the devs or anyone else for that matter. In 3.22, when shutting off your laser, it no longer drops your power level down to the minimum. This will make mining easier and will give you even more control of how much power you want to put into the rock. If you are a veteran, it may take you a little bit of time to adjust to not automatically pulling your power back up after rapidly shutting it off. But once you get used to it, you will no longer need to jump that power back up to that precise spot you had it slowly gaining charge at. Finally, since people always ask, let's talk about what build I'm running. Seeing that smaller rocks are a majority out there right now, I was a little excited to dive in and maybe test out some new kits, but sadly, I don't think much has to change. My build has stayed pretty much the same as it was last patch. I've still been running a Helix 2 with a Focus, a Surge, and a Stampede, an Impact with a Riger, Surge, and Stampede, and for the small rocks and sub-breaks, I've been using an Arbor 2 with a Riger C3 or a Stampede and a filter module. If I'm mining in a place with corundum, I'll swap the Impact out for a Hofstede with a Surge Stampede. The difference between the filter and the Filter XL module is minuscule compared to the price difference, so I've been going with a Filter L. On to my final thoughts. Patch 3.22 is flip mining on its head once again, and this time, not for the better in my opinion. I feel there is no reason to go out and multi-crew now with how much harder it is to find those large, low-density common material payday rocks. And with so many places spawning 90% pebbles, the only real place for us mole maestros to go and utilize our size 2 Helix lasers is Yella, Daymar, and Hurston. I'm not saying you won't find big rocks at Arcorp or Microtech or any of the moons. I'm saying, unless you get lucky, it's going to be 10 times harder finding something worth mining with a crew than it was in 3.19 all the way to 3.21. If you are dead set on going out with a duo and or a full mole to break a 75k plus rock, you're going to have to target rocks composed of iron or copper or even tungsten, which will lower your earning potential by large margins. For multi-crew mole, I think it still would be the most profitable mine at Crusader. For prospector pilots, just pick a place and you'll find rocks that will make you money. Go back to the RS signature section of this video to see where you can make the most profits. Like I said before, low density common material containing rocks equate to bigger paydays. So best bet for the prospector would be to target aluminum in Arcorp, quartz rocks in Microtech, and aluminum rocks in Crusader. Oh, and one last thing. Avoid the Halo if you value your time, till they bring bigger clusters and better rocks. I would like to thank all my supporters who have helped me with my journey here on YouTube. You have all helped me out tremendously. If you would also like to support me, please like and subscribe to this video so the algorithm gets it out there. If you have the means to show your support financially, you can do so by becoming a member here on YouTube or by donating on Ko-fi. If you would like to join our cult of industrial personality, check the link in the description of this video. And remember that if you see me out there in the black, pop a flare for me.